One of the biggest surprises to me is the difference between the same coffee when made in different brewing devices. I mean, it's a big difference. Well, you're about to find out. My friend Marcus Boni approached me before CoffeeCon Seattle and suggested a presentation demonstrating the various brewing methods and identifying how they differ and what to expect from coffees brewed in them. Today he selected 4 methods that will demonstrate those differences in your own kitchen at home. Hopefully you may find a method here that you might not possess, or that offers you something unique and even possibly something more suited to your taste than how you're brewing right now. So we're headed to Metropolis Coffee in Chicago for Marcus Boni. Hi, Marcus.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I am great on this wonderful sunny Chicago Saturday morning. We couldn't ask for better weather today, Kevin.
Oh, it's just gorgeous. And I want to warn you, everybody, that we have our servers overloaded right now. So a lot of people are going to Vimeo. You can still interact on Vimeo, by the way, because they're hosting it. So it's fine. Watch it anywhere. But I wanted to make sure everybody can see this presentation. Marcus, you've made our server crash. Well, I knew you'd show up and I told you you'd make an impact.
There we go.
Well, let me let you do it.
If anything, yeah. Oh, awesome, Kevin. Well, thank you. Well, thanks so much for having me here today, folks. We're gonna really dial in on a certain coffee and get really adventurous with it in 4 different ways. Coffee is such a dynamic and interesting beverage to really choose from. And what is so great about it is that it's not just serve it one way and enjoy it that way only. It's not opening a can or opening a bottle or anything like that. You get to brew it. You get to be involved in creating what is best about the coffee. And so coffee, both traditionally, historically, has been brewed many different ways, whether you're more familiar with a certain culture, whether you're from a certain region or country or territory, you probably have a very known experience with coffee, and that's largely based off of both tradition and, of course, how you enjoy coffee. But what that means is that you can actually explore one particular type of coffee brewed several different ways and usually find a really interesting taste experience in all of those ways too. And that's what's so exciting about coffee. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it challenging in some cases. That's what also allows you to play a little bit more with the coffee and experience something a lot different just by using the same cup of coffee, making minor tweaks to things, making different and unique changes just to get a different taste experience from that coffee. So we actually are going to brew it with 4 different ways today. We're going to take a wonderful, wonderful coffee here from Metropolis. This is the Ethiopia Suke Keto, a really, really nice coffee that was particularly chosen by the team here at Metropolis so that it could be brewed 4 different ways and experiencing something different, particularly from a taste profile in each of those 4 different ways. I've demystified some of our brewing techniques here. We're not going to get overly complicated with the nuance of certain grind settings and weight of coffee and things like that. What we want to do, not only because we just have 30 minutes to go through this, but also we want to make it simple so that this could be something that you could easily replicate at home and enjoy one particular coffee in a wide variety of ways. Also, we're choosing equipment here that isn't necessarily expensive. You might have it in your kitchen today too, and it usually can produce something, even if you were to try one brewing method compared to another brewing method, should really produce a different flavor profile for you and something that is really unique and experience coffee in a unique way too. Some of the key fundamentals that we want to talk about this morning, you'll probably hear this a lot throughout the day today. A lot of the wonderful coffee professionals that are presenting this weekend are going to talk about simple things you can be doing at home and with your home brewing setup that are going to instantly give you a better cup of coffee, a better taste experience. Number one for us here, in everything that we're brewing this morning, we're using a filtered water to make sure that you're getting the best water going into your coffee. Coffee is mostly made of water, and so you want to make sure that that key ingredient is something that's going to be perfect for your coffee brewing and for the best extraction. Not overly hard water, it needs to have a little minerality to it, but something that produces a really nice cup. We're also going to grind fresh. Again, in the essence of saving some time, I've pre-ground everything here, but just moments ago. But grinding fresh at home can really produce something that is substantially more flavorful, that gives you a lot more of the coffee extraction process to work with, and really is a noticeable difference. When I say grind fresh, think about your convenience too, whether that's just the night before or the morning of. Both of those are good instances that'll get you a better cup of coffee too. And of course, what we're using is also freshly roasted coffee. Again, our friends here at Metropolis have sourced this coffee for us, roasted it just a few days ago. I think freshly roasted coffee means something that was typically roasted 30 days or less. Those are really good criteria to look for. Look on the bottom of your bags, explore and read those bags to see if they have a freshly roasted date on them, or in your local coffee shops or with your local roaster too. With the 4 brew methods that we're going through today, again, thinking about something that you could easily replicate at home, something that isn't overly complicated, you could try 2, 3, 4 different ways. We're going to start with the good old home automatic dripper brewer. I've got a fantastic brewer here made by Bonavita. Bonavita makes really, really fantastic brewers focused on brewing at the right quality brew temperature, brewing at the right speed, and giving you an excellent cup of coffee. We're actually going to start this brew process now, since out of all of these, this takes a little bit more time, but it's really just push one button and forget about it. It does it all for you, essentially. For this specific brewer, we are using 47 grams of coffee for this brewer, and filling the tank all the way up to 5 cup. This is on the smaller side of the brewer, of the Bonavita brewer range. We're going to use a 5-cup brewer just because it's me enjoying it this morning too. Bonavita also has an 8-cup brewer that's really nice for those that need a little bit more coffee in the morning. We're simply going to just start that extraction process, and then the brewer does the rest of it for us too. Looking for a nice balanced cup of coffee here, something that is extracted very well. Again, the brew temperature on this typically brews between 195 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit, so you're getting a really nice extraction. Something that the wonderful folks at Metropolis did let me know about this coffee is that brew at the higher end of that temperature range is going to get that best result in the cup too. So we'll get that, make sure that that coffee brewer is moving away for us in too. The next brewer we will use is what we call the Clever Dripper, or also a filtered full immersion coffee brewer. What's nice about this is that it's all contained in this nice little dripper here. The coffee, when we say full immersion, what that means is that the coffee and the water are going to interact for a longer period of time. Unlike the brewer, where the water actually goes through the coffee bed and into the carafe, the coffee and water are going to be together for a longer period of time, typically resulting in a more heavier bodied cup, maybe a little bit more flavor. Some of you might call it more robust, but deeper and richer in flavor. So we're actually going to start this process here. What we will do with this is, because there's a paper filter that we're using here, we want to remove some of that paper flavor that could potentially come out of the filter by itself. So what we'll simply do is just run some water through that. This immersion dripper has an activated piece on the bottom that actually starts the dispensing process. All we'll simply do to run that water through, and it doesn't take a lot, is just put some hot water over that into our decanting device here too. It's real simple, nothing crazy. You see that water come right through there too. Easy peasy. While that's going through, we'll talk about the next brewer as well. This is an Aeropress, a really approachable and fun way to brew coffee. With the Aeropress, you're using at a higher concentration. So you're using a good amount of coffee with a little bit less water and extracting that quickly. What that's going to produce for you is typically a really nice, fuller bodied, either shot or espresso shot almost in this different type of extraction, or adding water post-extraction to give you a little bit more coffee and balance it out a bit more too. Aeropress is, what's really nice about Aeropress is that it's plastic. You can take it with you nearly anywhere. It's really quick to brew, so you're not waiting for an extended period of time. And also, with that ability to add water to it, not add water to it, you can really customize that flavor profile for exactly what you need or what you want or desire in that cup of coffee. And then finally, our French press. French press has been around for quite some time. It's also the full immersion type of brew where the water is interacting with the coffee for a longer period of time, giving you, again, that heavier, richer body. But in this French press, we'll take it a little bit of a longer extraction than the Aeropress too. And really what we're looking for is that deep, rich body. Texture-wise on the cup of coffee, it's a little bit more syrupy. All of these experiences are going to give you a different taste result, a different texture result, a different flavor balance, and that's specifically why they were chosen, not only because of their ability to easily brew, but also because they'll produce something pretty unique too. Okay, so we're going to get moving on our full immersion clever dripper. Again, having weighed out all of our coffee and ground it in advance, just to make sure that we can move through as fast as possible. On the Immersion Brewer, we're going to use 28 grams of slightly coarser ground coffee. We're using a little bit coarser because of the full immersion process. Typically with any of the full immersion, whether it's French press or this dripper, what's happening again with that longer period of extraction, you want to go a little bit coarser on your grind setting as well. We're going to turn on our scale. This is the only brewer that we're using a scale. At home for ease of use, you could definitely also just eyeball it, but we like to be a little bit more precise here with our extraction method. For this, we're going to pour the water over the grounds of coffee, making sure that we're getting total saturation on that ground coffee bed. Tear out my scale to 0. We're going to pour about halfway in this process. And then we're going to give it a little stir and then pour the rest of the way too. Just making sure that there's the right type of turbulence in there to get a really nice balanced extraction. Our total our total water weight in this brew cycle is 430 grams. So we're just going to give it a nice quick stir. And then we're also going to take it all the way up to the 430. Again, no particular technique when pouring here, just getting it nice, covered, easily and evenly saturated so that it has a nice consistent brew. Perfect. You can see our filter coffee is ending up there too. Next, moving on to the Aeropress, we're actually going to set this timer on the immersion for 3 minutes total. When that goes off, we'll just do a simple extraction. For the Aeropress, you want to also go ahead and pre-wet that water filter. Just again to get that paper flavor out of the water filter. Really nice and quick, easy way to do it. I've inserted my filter on the top of on the bottom of the filter piece of the Aeropress. And we'll do that water purge prior to putting the coffee in there too, to make sure that that's separate from the brewing process. Once we have that done, Aeropress is really nice where you just simply take this bottom portion of the Aeropress, get that filter locked in there nice and easy. And then I like to set it right on top of my mug. Again, because we're working with a smaller amount of coffee, filling up to the 4 is typically easily handled by a 12-ounce mug. For Aeropress, each Aeropress does include a nice little stirring device, which is right here, as well as a scoop. For the Aeropress, I like to eyeball this because it's really a nice flexible recipe where you're just typically using 1 mounded scoop of coffee for your Aeropress. Getting it in there, nice and easy. Didn't spill a single gram, which is great. I'm going to get our timer ready here too. Aeropress is a really, really quick extraction as well. What you will do on this brewer is you're going to make sure that the coffee bed is nice and evenly level. Fill it up about halfway, making sure all of those grounds are nice and saturated. Give it a stir, and then take it right up to that number 4 on the brewer. It's going to give you a full extraction there. That stir, again, making sure that it's nice and evenly brewing. The extraction is going nice and simple. And then taking it all the way back up to that 4. When you put it up to that 4 level, right there, you do want to go ahead and put your plunger on the top. Don't push it down. Don't plunge just yet. This is just going to kind of start to create that vacuum. As we then take it up to the minute, what we will do is at the end of this brewing process, we'll pull that lid off, stir it one more time, and then start the extraction then too. We are just 30 seconds away from the extraction. So prior to going on to that, we're going to prep our French press. Easy peasy on the French press side, right? We've got a nice stainless steel Bodum French press. For French press recipes, they do recommend 1 scoop per cup. And we're going to go ahead and do a 6-cup brew here today. There we go. The coffee smells delicious, by the way. All right, we are just about at our end of our brew for the immersion dripper. We're going to go ahead and start that extraction process. You see that coffee coming right through into our carafe here. Simply going through that filter, pulling out those extra grinds that are in there, giving it a cleaner cup when it does that going through the filter, but still giving you a heavier body, a nice, more syrupy body in the cup itself then too. So now our filter brewer is done, our automatic dripper brewer is done. This is extracting into here. Our Aeropress is now also done, so we would pull this off the top really quick. Go ahead and give it one more stir. Now with an Aeropress, you have to put a little bit of muscle into it. But what you're going to want to do is slowly and evenly push that plunger down so that you're getting a nice even extraction. You're also not getting crazy with it too. Stay in control of that plunge. And you're going to keep pushing it until you hear a really light hissing noise too. Again, this is giving you a really rich, full-bodied and flavorful cup of coffee, or sometimes an Aeropress shot that you can do a lot with, but really produces a nice, unique, and interesting flavor profile. You just got to keep pushing. You'll hear that hissing noise come here in just a second. It's definitely our morning workout for us. Right there is that hissing noise. Perfect. Aeropress is really fun and interesting to explore. If you go into a lot of different recipes that are online, you'll see folks doing really crazy and interesting things with the Aeropress itself then too. We're going to move on now to our French press. Just heat up my water really quick here one last time. Again, we've already put our coffee into the French press itself. French press known as a really easy and nice way to brew coffee, again producing that really flavorful cup of coffee. Put this down. Again, with this action device on the Clever dripper, you can just set it on the countertop. It won't extract because it's no longer pulling from the bottom there. Back to the French press. What we're going to do again is fill it about halfway, give it a stir, fill it then a little bit further up to the top. And then plunge it. We're going to do about a 4-minute brew time on the French press too. Here we go. And again, I'm doing a 6-cup brew on our French press this morning. What's also interesting about coffee, while most of us really drink it usually on the hotter side or nice and warm, what also is nice is that as your coffee cools over time, that will also present to you a slightly different cup of coffee too. So you're going to notice different flavors come out of it even 10 minutes, 15, 20, 30, an hour after you've brewed that coffee. It will change over time and give you something that's drastically different. All right, so we're going to go back to our automatic dripper that we started just a bit ago. Set this on top here. Great thing about this Bonavita, again, just pushing that button once gives you a really great extraction. The brewer takes over from the shower head design, how it comes out of the coffee, or how it comes out of the coffee brewer, the temperature of the water that's coming in through here, the amount of time that it takes to brew that coffee, really takes care of everything. I always like to give my coffee a little bit of a swirl, knowing that the extraction changes over time and trying to get a more balanced approach to that final brew. We're gonna go ahead and pour our next cup here. Got some great diner mugs from all of my coffee friends around the country. I think a big part of enjoying coffee is certainly enjoying it in your favorite mug too. All right, so there we go. We're going to taste that in just a second. Again, our Clever dripper, full immersion through a filter. Pour out our cup of coffee here. And then we've got just under a minute left for our French press where we'll go ahead and plunge that. Sometimes you might also just like to give it another stir depending on your preference, just to make sure that, as that extraction continues, you're getting a really nice, balanced cup of coffee in the end result. I also make sure that I put my plunger on top, but don't submerge it, just to keep that brewing temperature nice and warm. So we've so far got our Bonavita brewer ready to go, our Clever immersion dripper ready to go, our Aeropress here ready to go, and then our French press just a few more seconds away before we plunge on there too. And again, what we're also going to evaluate is not only from the brewing complexity in each of these brewers, but also the fact that some of them were brewed faster than others. Temperature might be a little different. That's going to create a really nice taste experience in a wide variety of ways. Again, using the same cup of coffee. Great, let's start then with some tasting, right? I haven't had enough coffee this morning, so I think let's get into the fun part here. I got on the automatic brewer. Really, really nice. Definitely has some nice acidity, really balanced as well in a cup. I'm gonna let this cool just a little bit longer. I like to take my coffee not super hot right off the brew cycle, but just a tad bit cooler. Next into the Clever immersion dripper here, pulled through a filter, of course. That's cooled a little bit more, so I'm already starting to get some really, really nice acidity. There's a little bit of like citrus and lemon note in there. I can tell already that this has a more body than the Bonavita brewer, which is exactly what we were hoping would happen. Pulled through a filter, so it's not muddy, it's not murky. There's clarity in there too, but you can really start to see that acidity shine in this cup of coffee. So good, I'll take a second sip, right? And moving on to the Aeropress. Let's see, again, knowing this was a shorter extraction. We didn't add any water to this. We simply took it up to the floor and left it as it was. Also pulled through a filter, but a very thin filter. Oh, wow. To me, this has like really, really nice dazzling acidity. Maybe some of you might also view it as potentially a little bit more strong in flavor and characteristics. I view that as really lush, really juicy, particularly with this coffee when thankfully for the folks here that advise me go a little bit higher on the brew temperature, I think showing that in the Aeropress has really caused it to shine. And then we will pour out our French press. French press, I think it is important to get that first cup of coffee right after the plunge out. As typically sometimes the immersion is still going to take place, knowing that there's not a full suction down on that French press on the bottom, and also knowing we didn't take this through a paper filter. This one is going to be a little bit more of heaviness in the cup. You'll find maybe even a little bit of sediment on the bottom of the cup of coffee. That's not for everybody, but that's totally a natural byproduct of the French press too. Let's try this. Wow. So this is my first time working with this coffee this morning. I can tell you that each of these coffees is dramatically different. This definitely heavier in body, a lot more syrupy, like lemon, but really not overly sour, just like juicy, 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 sweeter almost. I think these two are both the sweetest on the table, where these are a little bit more balanced. Exceptionally good. Surprise, I love it when coffee kind of takes my breath away a little bit there too. Makes it really interesting. And then as these continue to cool, what I encourage you to do is go back into each cup of coffee here. Get to experience it now that it's not just the reaction to the heat. You're allowing yourself to get a little bit more into the different flavor profiles, the different results of each of these extraction methods, and really starting to experience some unique parts of this particular coffee itself. Still really nice from the automatic brewer, a little bit more balanced, still that hint of sweetness in there, a really clean cup, something I say you could drink all day long. Again, balanced and clean, a little bit more flavor there, a little bit more of that body that comes out of the cup of coffee on our Clever Dripper. Oh wow, that Aeropress, it just really, the flavors shine through on this, likely because it's a higher concentration. You're doing a good amount of coffee with not as much water. You're just getting really that pronounced in the total flavor profile of the coffee itself. And that French press. I mean, juicy, juicy, juicy. All day long, this would just be something that I think could even be really nice if you did a cold brew version of that coffee. A really nice extraction. Super, super pleased with this coffee. And I would really be able to drink this any of these ways and really enjoy my cup of coffee. So there we go. That is the 4-way coffee flight. Again, designed for you to have fun with it.
Open the door.
Sorry, Kevin.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on you. I just wanted to. I have questions here, and people are saying, "Oh, okay." Here, Penny and Dayton. I'll do them fast. Penny and Dayton, Ohio. Do any of these differ in cholesterol? I'll ask you, Dr. Boni.
While I haven't taken them to a lab to analyze, you know, I'm not sure that there would be a significant difference. There's certainly texture differences. There's certainly an amount of coffee difference that comes through in the cup. You're getting a higher concentration, a different brew ratio in these because simply of the extraction method and the amount of coffee that we use. Whether that translates to a higher level of cholesterol, I'm not sure. Don't quote me on anything related to that, but I think what they are all is that they certainly do have really nice and unique characteristics and a really nice flavor profile too.
Well, it's. I mean, all I know is I'm already brewing some coffee, off to the side because I couldn't wait. This is Kelsey in Jersey City. Are natural filters better for the environment? I assume she means the unbleached.
Yeah, I think both of them you can, from what I understand, you can compost, checking on your local requirements for what it takes for composting. But I choose to use a natural filter, an unbleached filter, just because the flavor profile to me is better. And another reason why we took that additional step to water through a lot of our filters here, or the 2 filters that we used in the middle, just to make sure that that flavor profile wasn't part of that filter. From my expectation, I always look at it as it's a better cup of coffee. Some folks prefer the bleached filter, and again, I believe that you can compost both of them.
Okay, well, that's a good answer. Oh my gosh, Pat in Warrenville. Hey, Coffee Kevin, watch him multitask. That's just a compliment of your. Yeah, I'm not.
You're not seeing the sweat. There was no sweat, but I was sweating. So there was maybe I bit off a little more than I could chew here. Let's be honest.
I couldn't believe it. And by the way, that goes for your photographer Joe Piscitelli.
Yes.
There, Joe, you're keeping up with that stuff. As an end user, I was sitting here in my Barco Lounger, kind of going, man, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, and here's Jeff on YouTube is asking, what are your thoughts on alkaline water to level out acidity?
Interesting. I've only experimented with that just once. I personally did not, I like acidity in coffee. I like what it does in the process. I like how it translates into the cup. I like dazzlingness, almost like effervescence in a cup of coffee. So I don't necessarily want to mute that. I think if you're experimenting in a way that enhances that alkalinity, I think that's an interesting way. I would choose very specific coffees from, maybe from Africa, to enhance that a bit more. I still tend to like, I'm an old fart, so I go with the more traditional types of filtered coffee, giving you a little bit more, or water, giving you a little bit more minerality to really interact with that coffee well-known ways. But it's fun to experiment with these things, right? It's fun to throw different things at it and see what your coffee does, and that's what this is all about. Imagine brewing one way with 2 or 3 different types of water. What would the end result be? What would your coffee taste like, and what would your preferences be? That's what this is all about.
I think the amazing thing is the realization, and of course seeing you do this today has really drives it visually, is the idea that the coffee maker matters as much as the coffee itself. The different types of coffee will change the taste.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially based off of your preference. Get to know if you like heavier body, if you like more pronounced flavor, if you like deeper, richer, if you add cream or sugar. How do those different brew methods, how do they enhance those specific pieces? I think going heavier on the body, like with a French press or a full immersion or an Aeropress, if you add cream or sugar, will just have that coffee flavor come out a little bit more, while appeasing to your ideals on what you really enjoy, with maybe making it a little bit with milk or with sugar or what have you. Making coffee, it's not just popping a top and enjoying it. You have all these opportunities in pretty straightforward ways. If I can do it, you can do it for sure. But really to produce something that is unique and different rather than just a cup of coffee.
Marcus, thank you so much. This is I've seen your presentation before. This one is you topped it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin, and thanks so much to the team here at Metropolis. They've given, I mean, wow, this coffee is awesome. I am blown away by it, and thank you for kind of surprising me this morning, because it really is exceptional.
Well, I can't disagree with that. I'm drinking Metropolis a blend La Cordillera blend, and it is delightful.
Nice.
Yes, thank you.
Well, cheers, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin, very much. Cheers
To you, Marcus.